Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are listening from, and welcome to 1% Better, where we take a look at hidden stories in sport. I'm Xylon, and I'm joined by Dr. David Lipman, and his medical question today goes as follows. You should know this one because it's literally based on his degree. What bone in the foot bears the most impact force during running, up to 3 times your body weight?
Ooh.
Oh, no. No. You literally did a podiatry degree. Come on.
Yeah, but this is funny because the calcaneus
That's the
hits and
one.
is the hardest bone in the body, but it doesn't hit for everybody, right? And if it doesn't hit, then there's other bones bearing a lot of load. And navicular bears a lot of load because it's the arch bone that holds the arch up. So, but the calcaneus is one of the hardest bones in the body.
So what do you mean it doesn't hit for everyone? Like some people are four-foot strikers.
Correct.
Interesting. Very interesting. But
So
apparently it's also known as the heel bone, and it's the largest bone in the foot and absorbs enormous repeated load, which is why stress fractures here are so debilitating for runners.
made up like ChatGPT needs to pull that out. Like a stress fracture of the calcaneus is like very uncommon. I've literally never heard of one. I'm sure they happen, but I've never heard of one.
Well, to defend ChatGPT, this wasn't ChatGPT. I can't speak today. This was not ChatGPT. This was Claude.
Well,
Same.
tell Claude. Tell Claude ask Claude if he's sure ask him what the incidence of calcaneal stress fractures are. I'm sure they happen, and I'm sure they're probably higher than I think, but they're rare as hen's teeth from anybody I've spoken to.
Well, if you're listening to this podcast and you've ever had one there, let us know. It'd be very interesting to know. You can DM us on Instagram, 1% Better Pod. Comment in the section on Spotify. In the comment section, we've got an email address we check fairly regularly-ish down in the show notes down below.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, let us know. We are supported by Precision Fuel and Hydration on this podcast. We do have a discount code for you, 15% discount on your first purchase. That discount code is better2026. I see you sipping on Precision there.
This is a Precision water bottle, an OG Precision water bottle, US Open, from when it was a PTO. Precision water bottle. But no, man, I actually on the weekend was nailing a 90. Those PF 90s are so good, dude. Like I got out early, had to walk because we got a French bulldog. He can't deal with the heat, so we had to walk him at like 6 a.m. We did 90 minutes with him at 6 a.m. So it's like 7:30. I just got home, half been eaten. I was like, all right, I'm gonna get out for my run because before it gets too hot. And I was like, well, given it's so hot and I haven't eaten and I'm hungry, and I need to fuel anyway, let's take a bit extra because in the heat you burn more carbs. So I was like, all right, let's take a 90 for what ended up being like an hour 40, hour 50, somewhere in there. It's probably a little bit more than I needed, but yeah, anyway, it was so good. Like it's such a nice way to just go sip a bit, lock it, screw the cap back on, keep rolling around, go for there. So I do need to do another order shortly.
Me too. I also need to do it actually.
For fun or because you're actually going to use some?
I was thinking for Wendy mostly. She's got a 46K trail marathon coming up, so she'll probably running low on stock here. She'll probably restock for her, and then I love the electrolytes as well. But my training is picking up slowly. It's picking up.
Well, what's happening, mate? I saw you on the bike this morning pushing 100 watts, new PB.
30 minutes in new PB post spinal fusion. The bio has given me the green light to ride up to 30 minutes on the stationary bike now on days I don't have any rehab work, so that's quite nice. This morning was the longest at 30 minutes. Felt super comfortable. I'm just really, really happy with the way things are going. Did I tell you when I was in the gym, I arrived and there were sort of curtains up on one of the workout sessions. You know, those, they have like frames and then curtains in the middle. I was like, I've never seen this before. What are they blocking? When I got to the other side, someone was lying there injured and she was receiving first aid treatment. Later on, the ambulance came and fetched her. And I was thinking, this is the first time coming here in years and years and years that I've seen this. I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often where people injure themselves in the gym.
Well, it depends on what you're doing and depends on what the gym is. I'm sure it's a little bit more common in CrossFit gyms than other gyms, but the reality is gyms are a pretty safe place, mate. It's pretty known. There's not a lot of chaos if you think about it in comparison to say a collision sport or a contact sport where there's more chaos. The injury rates are pretty low. So fitness classes are like 0.1 per 1,000 participants per year. 0.1 injury per 100,000 participants per year. And then in gym in general, it's 0.23, so very low. And it's even lower if you take out bench press, because bench press is the most dangerous exercise in the gym by the numbers. Now, people might go, oh, it's not that dangerous, like surely snatches or clean and jerks are more. It's probably a mixture of the actual technicality, who does them, and how they approach them, and then how easy it is to get out of. Because the risk with bench press is you fail and then the bar comes down on your neck. Like, people have died bench pressing. So, Olympic style weightlifting is actually quite safe because you're taught how to miss lifts. So there's actually not that many injuries with it, although I have seen a couple. The bench press is by far the most dangerous. So, yeah.
I saw one guy in the gym this morning would be very upset if the bench press was removed. He was all upper body. He looked like SpongeBob SquarePants. I don't know, like all upper body and like tiny little legs. But I am surprised there aren't more injuries in my gym, because I was having a look around again this morning and the gun show was going off, man. So many guns around, man. I don't know what was going on. I mean, I just go to generic gym, Virgin Active, like generic franchise gym. But the gun show was in full swing this morning by men and women. What's happening with your running? You sent me a photo this morning of you wearing your hazmat suit. Was that outside or on the treadmill?
On the treadmill indoors, mate. It was 20 Celsius, which is like 70 something Fahrenheit. 70-ish Fahrenheit, 70 something, and decided on in the hazmat suit, which is a big mistake. Like, my heart rate usually gets to if it's quite warm, it's like usually gets like 160 lows. And this was like 170, like just above 170. I was getting lightheaded towards the end. I was like, I got to stop here. So it was.
How long did you do in total time?
35 minutes instead of 40. I actually cut it short a little bit and then hopped on the rower, whipped the paint suit off and then hopped on the rower. Got my heart rate up to like 194 on the rower though, which, that speaks to how hot it is. So good heat stimulus. And it's interesting. I went running on the weekend and it was quite warm. It was probably mid-20s, which is, probably nearing 80 degrees Fahrenheit. But running on the weekend and didn't feel it at all, did not feel hot. Now, obviously was, and I was fueling and hydrating appropriately, but I can really feel the effects of like actually being heat adapted here. So it's quite interesting.
And when we're talking heat in the UK, are we talking real heat? Because I was watching the Premier League on the weekend.
I just said the temperatures, mate. You weren't listening. I said the temperatures.
What did you say?
I said I was literally giving you the temperatures.
You said I heard 20 degrees Celsius earlier, but I'm talking about when you were running outside the other day.
Yeah, so I mean the temps are getting up to like over 30 Celsius, which is like 90, mid-90s Fahrenheit. So like proper heat. The biggest challenge in the UK is it's just not equipped for the heat. Just like when it gets properly cold in Australia, it's a real challenge, particularly in Queensland, because it's made to lose heat, the houses there. So you get really cold inside. It'll often be colder inside than outside. Here, it's often hotter inside than outside because there's no way to lose heat. There's no air conditioning, none of that stuff. So, it's been a challenge for the pup. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I was just in the Premier League last weekend of games last weekend, and they stopped halfway through for a cooling break. Not at halftime, even halfway through the first half, they stopped.
Part of the challenge as well is the delta. So, a week before this heat wave hit, it was single digits Celsius and like 40s Fahrenheit. It's not so much that is it hot or not. It's what was it just recently. So therefore, what are you adapted to, and what is it now? So it's the change more than it is any one thing, I think.
Makes sense, yeah. We are also supported by Stride running power meters. I was reading a blog post earlier that you sent me about some high school kid wearing Stride who went one of the fastest runs ever from a high school student. What was this about?
Yeah, so Jaden Merrick, he won the Drake relays, which took a big race there. So he ran 29:36, so number 10 all-time US high schooler. So quick over the 10,000 meters. But the interesting thing, they actually have a data breakdown with one of the Stride coaches talking about it, and they looked at his pacing. They used basically first half, second half, right? And he ran a really smart race. So 14:55 and then 14:41. So like perfectly negatively split. Wattage-wise, it was 386 to 394, which makes sense because you sort of output more in the second half averages. But it was interesting. His critical power was 400. And critical power is usually what you can hold for around an hour. I reckon that critical power is probably a little bit low for him. Maybe he just doesn't do enough of the longer stuff, because given what he ran there, the critical power should, he should be running faster or the critical power should be lower. Sorry, I got that backwards. So I wonder if he's got more left, or if that critical power is out of date, or if it was a bit more of a tactical race or something like that, because he should be able to hold that for an hour. Although, to
He
be fair
did.
as well, sorry, yeah.
He did do a negative split, so maybe he did have. Maybe he was holding back. Maybe there was more in the tank.
Yeah, for sure. And critical power is modeled, and you have to have different race intensities in there. So I'm not too sure, but that caught my eye. But there is a cool breakdown. If you look at the first half, second half, you can see his stride length increased with a slight decrease in cadence. So it's probably a fatigue manifesting there a little bit. Usually you would see it the other way, where cadence goes up a little bit, but who knows? And they're minor differences. But his leg spring stiffness clearly goes down, which speaks to some fatigue. And let's be clear, even if it's sub-maximal, you will display fatigue across 10Ks of running in spikes. There's no question that you're more fatigued at the end of that than you are at the beginning. So, super interesting stuff. Really appreciate Stride support on the podcast. Really loving what they're doing with the data at the moment from the blog breakdowns. It really helps you understand the metrics. Seeing those case studies helps you really understand things in sort of in concert and how they fit together rather than isolated metrics.
Should we get through some community shout-outs? Apologies if we miss you out here. We basically take this from the Strava group. So join the Strava group if you haven't yet 1% Better Pod. But if you feel like you've done anything meaningful, you want us to mention it, also just DM us, email us, send us a message. Happy to give you a shout-out.
You said we. You said we. Look at the Strava group.
Mm-hmm. I posted in there yesterday.
Posting in there is not the same as looking in there, mate. But anyway, we'll come back anyway. But yeah, I want to shout out Vasily Permitin. So he did the Cell Run 10K in 33 minutes 09.
Shout out to Andreas Vegan, who won Begum Uz Marjampoli. Probably did not say that right. Half marathon in 1:19.
Yep. Then we had Christian Ronsolt and Christian Trumperdach, two Danish lads. So they both did the Royal Run 10K. I think Christian Ronsolt came, I think, 9th, and Christian Trumperdach came 17th. So that was Christian Ronsolt time 32:27, and Christian Trumperdach was 32:54. So either Christian Ronsolt either it was a lot of people in that space finishing that time, or Christian Ronsolt's number 9 was to do with like his 9th effort or something like that. I wasn't sure there. I didn't have time to actually check the official results.
Also, shout out to Logan Smith, who won the whole 10K in 32:46. And then Angus from Stride, our sponsor, ran 37:14 at the Boulder to Boulder 10K. Dan Squires, 4th at 100% Mojanshi Trail, 34K. And then we'll talk a little bit more in depth later on. But Capetown Marathon took place over the weekend. Shout out to my friend Ishan Barno, ran 3:18. Went to negative split there. That is a PB to him. And he said, I listened to this podcast and we are team negative split. And that's what I was thinking about. Also, shout out to Abelang, loyal listener, doctor who listened to this podcast, went 3:59 in training for Comrades Marathon in 3 weeks' time. Alongside his friend Lusta, went 4:31. Also, their long run for Comrades Marathon. Lukman Cupido went 5:36 over there. Are we getting some good feedback with regard to the bonus episodes we are putting out every Tuesday for the next couple of weeks? And the last few weeks, you've been putting out a bonus episode with Eitor Verbier.
Yeah. So Melissa Mizzo, previous guest, actually reached out to me and said the energy expenditure episode was great. So she really enjoyed that. And we got a comment on Spotify from Matt this morning, probably an hour after, or, just after the episode was live, basically, saying, great episode. Thanks both. Read the carbohydrates episode, which dropped this morning at the time of recording. So that is Tuesday morning there. So we do check the email. It was Xylon's month to check the email. That's why it wasn't done. But we did get an email a little while ago from Adam Ahmed, so I did want to apologize to Adam for not having mentioned him, but he was keen to see keen to hear about the London Marathon results. So I appreciate the email, Adam, and hopefully you enjoyed the London Marathon episode. And then we got a Spotify poll. We sort of review these from time to time, and this one surprised me, and I'm angry at our listeners. I just disagree with them. So it was about are relays the best part of track and field? We were talking about the World Relays, and 25% of people said heck yes, and 75% of people said no. I'm filthy. It's not okay. It's the relays are the best. That's the story. I will not be told differently.
I was actually interviewing on another podcast one of the athletes who ran in the World Relay Championships in Botswana. And she was talking about how much prep goes into that baton handover. And I was like,
It should be.
imagine if
Should
you
be.
guys didn't practice. Like I just watched that to see how people drop it. And in that Botswana World Relay, I remember two of the women fighting with each other because they didn't get it right, and the race was over. And mid race, they start screaming at each other. Oh, there's so much it goes into
Oh,
it.
it's that's why I find relays to be interesting, because there is a leveling aspect to it. There is zero chance or zero reason that Jamaica and the USA shouldn't be 1 and 2 in every single relay, every single sprint. Like, there's no reason that they shouldn't be,
Mm.
and they aren't, and that's fascinating because there's so much more to it, and that's what makes it interesting. And the practice to do with this, like I just love relays for this reason. Is there's so much coaching to it, and so much practice, and so much teamwork. And maybe we need to get somebody on to talk about this, because I think it's underexplained and underdone. But there's a ton of work, a ton of drills you do with respect to that. When do you start running? How do you deal with it? Which hand do you put out? Like, because there's different debates about, do you run with an uncomfortable hand, or do you go right, left, or is it left, right? Are people comfortable with it in a certain hand? How do we do that? It is fascinating.
Well, the athlete I was interviewing is a Chilean athlete. She's a 100-meter runner. She'd be happy to come on, I'm pretty sure, if I asked her. We can discuss it. But as I said earlier, join our Strava club, our Strava group, 1% better. I must tell you, I was in the gym this morning, and this friend comes up to me and she's like, "Oh, I saw you walking yesterday." And I was like, "Oh, where? Were you in my neighborhood?" She says, "Oh, no, on Strava." I was like, "Oh." And then I went and looked at my activity and she didn't even like it. I don't know what's worse. Like, real life is happening on Strava, or the fact that she said to me, I saw you walking, I saw your activity, which I was actually on the call with you yesterday. That was the walk she saw, and she didn't even like it.
Well,
Criminal.
maybe she didn't like what you did, mate. She
Oh,
saw it. She didn't say, "I like that you went for a walk
she
yesterday."
did. She did. She said, "I saw you went walking. So good after the spinal fusion. Good to see you moving, etc., etc." Anyway,
Where do you stand on the comment without kudos?
I'm okay with it. I know you aren't fine with it. One engagement is
No,
fine. Two is sometimes too much, man.
I don't mind. It's Elo that's a problem. Eloise Dula, our previous guest, hates it. The comment without kudos. So it's her. I'm like 50-50. I'm like, you do what you want.
Let's have a look at what's come across my desk this week. Some quick bits for you. There was an announcement from the Tour Down Under professional cycling race in Australia about a format change. I think it caught your eye, right?
Yeah, so they announced that the men and women are going to ride the same tour. So the same stages next year, which I think is huge, because the women are trying to, obviously extend out the grand tours, right? So the men's grand tours are 3 weeks, 21 stages. Women's are 10 stages, as I understand it. Sometimes, I don't know how they're doing it this year. They can sometimes do two on one day. It's all sorts of messy. But we've talked sort of quite a lot on this podcast about some of the challenges for women's cycling at the moment, which include depth and those sort of things. But I think in a race like this, which is shorter, it's not a grand tour, it's a good step towards parity for women's and men's riders. And you can start to see case studies like this where it happens. We evaluate it and we look at it and start to see where things are. We start to see if there's a different sort of decrement or different style of racing that happens. And we can start to really compare apples with apples to make decisions. Because at the moment, decisions are being made without data. So I find this interesting. I also think it's smart from Tour Down Under to get some press for doing this, right? Like, it's a really smart PR move. So, yeah, where do you land on it all, mate?
Did they say if it's going to be the same day, race on the same day?
I have no idea about that. I didn't check that part. I assume it probably would be. It would be like morning and then afternoon.
Yeah, I hope that's
So
the case because traditionally the races, I think, a week apart from each other. But I saw this headline and I actually meant to read it, which I didn't. So apologies for not having this information. But I think if it is on the same day, I think it's smart because the women will get the same or similar eyeballs to men. You know, journalists are there, they're covering it. It's on the same platforms, etc. It's on social media, things happening. People are following it anyway. So you increase, in my opinion, the amount of eyeballs you see. I think it's smart. I think, whereas I do feel I watched Tour Down Under, the women's race this year, and it does feel a little isolated. So I think to clump it all together would really be good.
it's also a funny time of year because it's
Yeah.
like it's the very first race of the season. It's in January.
Yeah.
It's like no one's thinking about cycling because it's Southern Hemisphere summer. So the more you can do to cluster that stuff so it makes a bigger impact, particularly in the Northern Hemisphere, I think the better.
Yeah, I think so. Did you catch the Diamond League this weekend? I think it was round number 2 taking place in Xiamen in China.
Yeah, it was good. I think this round was probably a bit better. I probably enjoyed it more. Certainly, there was a few more talking points. And listen, same sort of athletes rolled around because they're both in China, so like it makes sense. Again, dominated by the Southern Hemisphere athletes, but I mean, some talking points that I caught, like the men's 400 was interesting. The Botswanan world champ, uh, Kibinatsipi, far out. I should have practiced this anyway. He
Chippy.
yeah, sure, Kibinatsipi. So he was interesting. So he paced it perfectly. It's worthwhile going to watch this because he raced Samakonga, the Com Games champion,
That
and
was
he
good.
paced this thing perfectly and
Yeah.
just passed him on the line. But Samakonga was tying up, and Nene, the South African, got third. But it was interesting because he wouldn't have blown out a candle when he finished. The winner just was so fine, and he ran 43.92 for a meeting record. His PB is only 43.53. I say only, I mean like that's quick. What I'm getting at is he wasn't that far off that. So I'm almost certain, that was from the World Champs last year, but I'm almost certain he's going to break his PB this year, which is a real concern for everybody else who's racing him because he's obviously a big race racer. He races best race in the World Champs to win it, and he's in good shape. And he ran a PB in the 100. He ran 989. We talked about him being one of the few guys to run sub 10 and sub 44 earlier this year. So
Yeah,
he's in great shape.
He looks like the real deal. I will say the commentators were saying Samakonga sometimes runs different strategies. So he sometimes goes just to lead the race from start to finish and wins. Other times comes from behind. So he's got these different like tricks in his locker that he's able to do. But yeah, Kevin Nachipi looked like he didn't even bat an eye. He was not panicked at all. He looked like he knew exactly what he was doing and passed him very late to win.
Yeah, but so there's certainly strategies, and you can do that to some degree. But like, if Samakonga can't run as fast, he can't run as fast.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how you spend your energy. If you don't have the same amount of propulsion, you just don't have it.
Yeah.
Right. So there's certainly some psychology that you could consider and maybe that's what Samakonga was doing was like, I think he was a lane. I think he was outside. So if you're outside, you're obviously ahead to start with, and you have and then it unwinds as a stagger unwinds.
Yeah.
So you can, and you don't know where the other guy is. So it's kind of just like go for it to some degree because you don't look back. So maybe that was a strategy is like, I'm just going to go here and spend all my bickies early and then see if I can hang on and try and blow him out of the water. But you certainly, it's a bit of it's an interesting one. So
what did you say there? Spend my bickies early. Yeah. What is that?
Oh, it's like, it's a very Australian term. It's like burn your mattress early or something like that.
I don't know what it means, but what's a bickie? Your biscuits.
Yeah.
Australia. We've left them to their devices down there too long. Someone needs to go check what's happening there and do some supervision.
You're welcome. Go down. Then we had this, probably the whole, like the performance of the meet. Again, another women's throw. So I'm here for it. This was unbelievable. This 18-year-old Japanese girl, Yan Ziyi, she just turned 18, like days before this. So it was her first ever competition as an adult because you can't compete before then.
Wow.
She threw the second furthest throw of all time on debut. So she threw 71.41, which was obviously an under 20 world record. The world record is 72.28, so she's not far behind. She's like 40 centimeters behind. It was set by a Czech athlete, Barbora Spachkova, in September 13, 2008. So that's how long it's been. The next best throws after that throw, obviously now we have Yan Ziyi at 71, 74, but before that was Osleides Menendez from Cuba in 71.70 from 2005. Maria Andreevich, 71.40 from 2021. Maria Abakumova from Russia, 70.53. And then Christina Obergfall, 70.20. So we're talking about people who've thrown, basically 70 meters and 71s. And this, this one's thrown a high 71. So unbelievable. I clocked a couple of things. I was trying to find out her height and weight, and it wasn't available, so it's not surprising. But she seems to be quite tall. Javelin's a funny one. So I've spoken about this before on the podcast, and I don't I don't love talking about body shapes of athletes, but it is important with the throws. And this, this goes across men's and women's. This isn't about women's bodies here. But generally, shot putters are big because it's a huge advantage to mass. You don't have to move far. So so they end up being quite tall and quite full of mass. Then you have, and I've spoken ad nauseum and spoken about particularly the world's best discus thrower, and her name is eluding me at the moment. But you end up with these discus throwers that are like a mix where they can often be quite small using a really speed orientated strategy versus like quite a big discus thrower as well that you can see.
Is it Valerie Allman you're thinking of?
It is Valerie Allman. Her name is no longer Allman, though. She's just taken her husband's name. I can't remember what it is, but yeah. And then the javelin is it's a bit more swayed towards that sort of height and mass a little bit, but you do have to run quite a bit. So there is a speed component to it. So they're not super, super big, but she's quite big. What I did note, though, she had some elbow strapping on. And this is a very common, American listeners will be like, oh, Tommy John surgery and that sort of thing. So Tommy John surgery is a classic thing that happens. You get the inside ligament of the elbow, the ulnar collateral ligament, ends up strained and they can be torn from throwing too much at a young age, particularly in baseball pitchers. So they end up with this, what they call Tommy John surgery. She obviously hasn't had, well, maybe she has, I don't know. But what I'm getting at is she had some strapping there to support it. She's obviously struggling a little bit with something there, which would make sense, particularly given the weight of the javelin, right? So for a weight discussion of the javelin, in the women's, the under 18 weight is 3 kilos, which is 6.6 pounds, and the open weight is 4 kilos or 8.8 pounds. So basically 25% heavier. So she's gone from throwing a 3 to a 4, basically, kilo. So that's a significant increase. Now, I've no doubt she's been training with the 4 probably for quite a while because there's a good reason you might throw overweight and underweight to some degree. Now, maybe not a whole kilo, but there's some change there. And just for record, the men's weights are under 18s is 5 kilos and the opens, which is 11 pounds, and 7.26 kilos, which is 15.97 pounds.
You reckon she'll break the world? There's a very good chance she'll break the world record someday.
Oh, I think this is the thing. As we said with Gout, as we said with KMI, is like that throw makes her world class, one of the best of all time. Period. Full stop. We don't need that. She can stop throwing. I mean, ironically, she threw once and stopped throwing. She didn't throw again after
Wow.
that. So what I'm getting at is,
I'm busy, guys.
Or maybe she's carrying a bit of an injury, right? That's the other thing, right? Like, and maybe you don't want to overload her. There's a lot of good reasons. She's not going to throw further. I mean, maybe she is, but like chances of her throwing further aren't that. Because the thing though with throws is they're so technical and quite weather dependent. Because humidity and winds and stuff really affect javelin throwing. Plus, you have to throw it perfectly and have everything else come together and not be injured and all that stuff. And it's quite a high force sport, so you can end up with all these injuries, particularly in the foot and ankle. So, and the shoulder, of course. So, and her and the elbow. So, does she? I mean, she can throw a world record. She has, if you're going to bet on anybody to throw a world record, it's her. But at the same time, she may never throw further than that. That may be the height of her career, and that doesn't make it a failure of a career. It just means that we thought she was going to do better. She looks physically quite immature, so that says to me, particularly given Chinese style training, where they've got a lot of emphasis on strength and strength in that she's probably going to get better and stronger, therefore be able to tolerate more training load and get better. But let's see. She's looking good for it, but I never like to make a bet on an 18-year-old kid to still be performing in 5 years. Right? It's just hard.
Yeah. And then what happened in the women's steeple? This was cool to watch. I loved it. It was like the 3 favorites and everyone else. They weren't even pretending there was like anyone else to focus on in the race in the preview.
Yeah, and that's this sort of this reminds me a lot of sport at the moment. Like if we talk about cycling, it's Jonas Vingegaard versus Tadej Pogačar for the most part, or it's Demi and Kazia in the women's. And it's kind of like, or it's Wout and Mathieu in the cyclocross. It's kind of like when there's 2 of them or 3 of them, it's a great race. When there's 1 of them, it's horrific because it's a procession, right? So it's kind of good and bad in some respects. But I mean, listen, they got these women, Chemitai, Cheretich, and Yavi are the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th best of all time. And they're racing each other, chasing a world record. So, I mean, it's kind of cool to see that. It was interesting to watch. I actually messaged you. I sent you a voice message laughing because the poor old pacer Bucket from the Netherlands just couldn't keep up. She tried to get to the front and couldn't make the front on the first lap. Now, part of that's because on the first lap there's no water jump, and because there's no water jump, you can actually bank some time, right? So we're team negative split, but also like it's negative split effort, right? And the thing with the water jump is it's quite taxing. So she ended up struggling to get there. So anyway, they ended up running 8:51 in a meeting record. Chemitai won it. It was interesting enough, but not, you got to love the steeple, and I'm just not there on it. So, it is what it is. But
women's 200 meters, so cool to see Sha'Carri Richardson going up against Sharika Jackson so early in the season. What happened?
Yeah, well, last week I talked about Shikari having a really good start and then running really strong through the finish, and like that being concerning. I actually thought I didn't see the times, didn't look at the times, and I was like, oh, she didn't run as well this week. Everyone just ran faster. Shikari actually ran faster, which was interesting. So again, it's good to see them building through. They should build through the season, particularly with the travel. The thing I sort of took note of here, Prandini, the American, is sponsored by On. On have just started a track team, sprints team, sorry. And so it's called the OAC Sprints Division. And so Prandini, I don't know if she's part of it, but she's certainly, I think she was already an on athlete, but her and the Kambunji sisters were certainly on athletes who were sprinters. The Kambunji sisters are Swiss, so it makes some sense there. But it's interesting to see the sprints division starting from on. So that usually speaks to like product development, right? And where they came from. So their DNA was in road running, which you're always going to sell more spikes because there's just more mileage. So now they're going into sprints. So it's quite cool to see On evolve as a brand in that respect.
And then the women's 1500 meter. I'm not sure I watched this one actually. What happened again? Oh, no, I did watch it. Jess Hull was in this race. Yeah, I did watch it.
Yeah. I mean, it's been interesting. There was some sort of controversy at the Nationals, the women's, basically Jess had sort of closed the inside and Claudia Hollingsworth came up, tried to go behind her to break out and then ended up tripping Jess and then winning the race. And there was there was protests and who won it and whatever. There's a lot of girls here who are very good, women even, that could compete for Australia in the Commonwealth Games and potentially do well. So obviously Jess Hull, she's got a world silver medal. Claudia Hollingsworth's there. Sarah Billings is there. Abby Caldwell is there. And there's another one. Lyndon Hall is there as well. It's like 5 of them. And they've all been racing these races the last 2 weeks. It's kind of been like the rematch, right? A couple of times. But it's been interesting to watch what's happened because they were all pretty close at Nationals, but it was a bit of a, sort of Nationals probably was close, and this has not been close, right? So they've all been racing these Diamond Leagues. Everyone's sort of, a couple of people are trying different strategies to Nationals, but Abby Caldwell is just like dominating this at the moment, which is saying something because, I mean, Jess looks a bit off the mark. Now, again, similar to Samakonga, she's been trying a lot to not be beaten by Faith, which is really about, can I kick off this slower run? Can I improve my speed? And so she's shifted her tactics to try and, I think, develop towards winning a global medal. But she looks a little bit underdone at the moment, or I don't know. And whereas the other women are really thinking about the Commonwealth Games and qualification, right? Jess is in a different class in that respect. So it's been interesting watching that. So let's see how it develops.
Looking forward to that. I think the next round isn't so far away. Is this weekend the next round?
Correct. Yeah, we did this last week on the podcast. So basically weekly for now. It's in Rabat this weekend.
Okay, awesome. I'll catch that then. Let's talk about basketball. I know you follow the NBA. Now, I don't follow it very closely, but for some reason, the last 24 hours, the New York Knicks keeps coming across my news feed everywhere, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. What's been happening?
Well, the Knicks, mate. The Knicks are back. But we'll get to that. Like, firstly, Victor Wembanyama, Wemby, we talked about him. He had a blood clot. He's back, thankfully. He's an alien. Like, they call him the alien. He's a proper alien. He's doing crazy stuff, hitting half-court shots, hitting like Steph Curry three-point shots. Like, it's wild to watch someone so big be so good at everything. Like, because big guys historically couldn't shoot or they couldn't do whatever. He is doing everything. He's just been ridiculous. It feels like he's not being hyped as much as he could be, and I wonder if that's because he's a French guy and he's a bit different. He's not as outspoken. He cried after a game. Like, he's quite interesting reads. He's a deep thinker. So anyway, but I'm of the opinion that he is, if he can stay healthy for the next 5 years, he's easily going to be the best basketball player of all time. Maybe not the greatest, but the best when we look at all abilities, because he can shoot. Like, LeBron's shooting was never quite there. Michael Jordan didn't shoot the three that well, and didn't, but when he's blocking, he's stealing, he's assisting. It's just crazy to watch this guy play. He's unbelievable. It's disgusting how good he is.
I know we've had the GOAT discussion, but you just said something there. What's the difference in your mind between the best and the greatest?
Well, greatness is about the heights you reach in some respect. I'm just talking about like skill set wise. Like, greatness is about things like success and all these other things, right? So, no one thinks Kevin Durant's in the greatest of all time debate, but he's a very good basketball player. He's probably one of the best ever shooters, right? So there's different ways to think about this, right? So I don't want to say he's going to be the GOAT. He potentially, I mean, he has the ability to go do that, but I'm not calling that now. What I'm saying is, like, from a pure skill set and what he can do And the single package of a basketball player, if you made it on a game like NBA 2K, if you like could cheat and use all the things, you would make Wemby. Like the guy
Yeah.
is so tall and he can block and steal and pass and he's got the right mindset and he's like, he hates losing. It's all those things. It's crazy to watch. Like this guy's generational. And listen, generational's hard as well because like quite frankly, another one could come. Like these
Mm.
kids seem to be coming out of the woodwork everywhere, right? So it's unbelievable. But yeah, the Knicks, mate, they swept the Cavs, which is huge. So sweep means they didn't, it's a 7-game series. If you win 4-0, that's a sweep.
Mm.
And 4-1 is a gentleman's sweep for the record. So they are heading to the finals for the first time this millennium.
Wow.
So, and
Wow.
this is like the home of basketball. Like New York is like the home of basketball. So, super good for the NBA that the Knicks are doing well. And so, lots of long-suffering New York fans. I have friends who are New York fans. So, yeah, I'm excited for them. They're succeeding in a style that that I sort of resonate with some more defensive emphasis and effort emphasis. But yeah, it's an atypical way to succeed stylistically. So,
Any
yeah,
idea
it's
why this
good.
is happening now? Do you have some insight into that?
I mean, they've had Jalen Brunson came across. They got Jalen Brunson. He sort of brought a couple other people and led them. So I think that's part of it. Quite frankly, the Cavs were always probably going to capitulate. It was a bit of a weak East this year. The East has always been a bit weaker. I was hoping my Pistons would do better. They lost to the Cavs, but the Cavs had James Harden, and James Harden has historically always underperformed in the playoffs, and this year towards the end was no different. So. Yeah, it's hard, but there's not like the East is just not as talented as the West. So that's just the way it is. It's been that way for a long time. It's one of the knocks on LeBron actually is that he used to play in the East all the time and avoid the West. So, but yeah, this got me thinking about there are some teams in sports where it's important for them to win from time to time. Like the Knicks are one of them. It's like super important for basketball that they win, and I'm sure the
Yep.
Celtics is the same. The problem with the Celtics is like they win a lot, so people actually dislike them. But probably the Dallas Cowboys. Like again,
Mm.
we don't really like Dallas Cowboys, but they're really important for the league. So probably good for the Dallas Cowboys to win. In rugby league, South Sydney Rabbitohs. Again, if you're a fan, you'll maybe agree or disagree or whatever. DM us and let us know. I don't know a lot about baseball, but I'd say the Yankees and Red Sox need to win from time to time. I know the Red Sox was a
Yeah.
big win when they won a couple of years ago. I'm thinking about the French rugby team internationally, and certainly probably you could argue the English. Probably Northern Hemisphere teams in general. It'd be good to see them win a World Cup. I think it's important for
Mm.
world rugby. Probably the French. I was thinking about the football. It's like, is it the British team? I don't know. Maybe the Italian team. Be good to see them win.
Gotta be
Like,
in it to win it.
well, yeah, I know, but and then I was thinking in cycling, is it the French cycling teams? Like, it'd be good to see a French team win the Tour de
Correct.
France. Like, it'd be really important for them to do it. I think it's that many of these teams may not be so well run, which is why we're seeing it. But like, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't. Like, it wouldn't be good for the sport for them to win.
That's a really good take, actually. You don't want them dominating, but you do want these legacy teams and strategic teams doing well from time to time. It does lift the sport and make it more sustainable. We mentioned Capetown Marathon earlier. I was in the gym on Sunday, had that streaming, was watching it, very entertaining and tracking friends as well. But should we talk about what went down?
I saw some. You were watching. I didn't watch it. I just saw a clip of some pelican running out in front of the elite pack.
Oh, honestly, I don't know what he was doing. Some guy in the 45 age group. I don't know why he started with the elites, but I don't know. I think he used to be an elite runner. But I don't know if you wanted TV time or whatever, but it just looked so bad. I don't know what he was thinking.
Yeah, I don't love this from people, whenever it
No,
happens.
no.
But
You
yeah,
want attention for yourself. You're taking away from the race from the moment. Eliud Kipchoge is there. The GOAT is there. Commentators are talking about him. And yes, this guy in the first kilometer, like getting all the limelight. Oh,
yeah. I mean, probably good for the commentators to talk about something. But yeah, they actually knew his name, which was cool. I was like, oh, you guys have really done your homework. Anyway, but like, listen, it was interesting. 3 of the 4 course records are broken. This is going to happen as it becomes a bigger race. Like better runners will come and break records. So Ethiopia's Mohamed Essa, he won the elite men's race, ran 2:04:55. Previous course record was 2:08:16. So that speaks to the quality improvement, at least in the men's field. Fastest marathon on the African continent, which is cool. The two, David Weir and Manuela Scar broke the wheelchair records. We won't go too much into them, but that was cool. Congratulations to them, and that was good to see. The women's title is claimed by Ethiopian Dara Dida. She took the win in 2:23:13. I did some research. I was like, that seems slow to me. I was like, that was quite slow. And I went back and looked at basically all of the major marathons that have happened since, from Cape Town, all the World Marathon majors back to the beginning of 2025. New York City was 219, and I think that was a record. So it was a quick year there. Berlin was 221 on a hot day, and Sydney was 221 on a relatively slow course. So this was a slow race on the women's side of things. So I'm not sure why. But
Probably
yeah,
the field level of competition, maybe.
yeah, I don't want to throw too many stones. Like, they're not a major marathon yet, so they don't have the budget and they can't do that. So it is what it is. But yeah, like, there'll be people who are licking their lips and who'll go down to Cape Town next year to try and win this thing if it isn't a major. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way.
I think it would be cool to have a major. I know we've had this debate nonstop, but African runners dominate the marathon. It's would be so cool to have a marathon major on the continent, like on Africa.
Couldn't agree more. But then also, like, why are we asking for it to be like the Cape Town Marathon is not meeting criteria? So, like, why are we asking them to meet the criteria? Let's just make it a marathon major and, like, it's kind of build it and they'll come. Don't, like, ask them to jump through hoops that they're not going to make and then, like, garbage your way through it. Like, Sydney had to jump through all these hoops and they did, and then they got the major status. Cape Town struggling. It's like, why do we have these standards? Like, it's clear that once you become a major, everything kicks off. And maybe you need to have commitments around certain things or whatever else. Like, I don't know how. Maybe a World Marathon Majors group have to help you build capacity. I don't know what it is, but, like, don't set standards and people not meet them and then give it to them anyway. Like, that's the wrong message to send. You either just give it to them, because I agree with you. And I was thinking about, like, where else could this be in Africa? And it could be in a number of places. It's probably not going to be as good as Cape Town when you think about the total experience from a tourism standpoint and a running tourism standpoint. It's probably not going to be as good as Cape Town. It probably, you need a certain number of facilities for hotels, right? Because at the moment it's a predominantly local race, but it's not going to stay like that. It's, once it's a World Marathon major, this will probably be 50% tourists, maybe
Yeah,
more.
it has to have hosting capacity. Yeah.
Yeah, and at the moment, it's, I think, 26,000 I saw, but that'll go up as it capacity increases. Like, so you basically need hotel rooms for plus journalists, plus coaches, plus partners. Like, you need hotel rooms for basically 50,000 people, maybe more. So there's a lot of places that can actually do that. So we go, okay, it has to be Cape Town. Fine, then just give it to them and just help them get there. Right. So that'd be my take on this. I get frustrated when we set rules and then, like, decide we can do whatever we want with it. It's like, they have to meet these criteria, but actually, no, they can't meet them, but, we'll just give it to them anyway. Like, don't do that. Just help them set it up. Anyway, probably the thing that I've seen most talked about is Adrian Vilskut and his pacing. It's the quote I saw was, he delivered one of the most remarkable performances seen on South African roads in recent years at the Cape Town Marathon. I thought it was a bit overstated. He was I don't know how to feel about paces here, but, like, the guy's unbelievably talented and can run as well, right? There's no question here. So he was meant to pace the elites through halfway in 62:30, which he did. And he was expected to drop out by 30 Ks, but he made it through 35 Ks, leading the men in 1:44.06, averaging 2:58 per kilometer. I'm not going to do the math on that in miles, but it's quick. So, I mean, it's really impressive for him, that run, particularly given he stopped having support at 30K, so he wouldn't have had any more bottles or anything like that. This is the guy who won the New York half this year in 59:30. And again, that's a hilly race. So this guy's clearly shaping really well. I think he runs for the NAZ Elite, actually.
Yeah, he studies in the US. We've talked about him on the podcast before. He beat the South African 10K record in my town, before it got beaten again. He won, I think, the 21K South African half marathon record. He hasn't done a marathon yet, so the commentators were saying he's just going to go for it. In the pro meeting, he did ask, "Are paces eligible to finish if I wanted to finish?" So clearly, he had one foot in there and one mind on it. And I think a part of the reason also why the course record was shattered was because, like you say, he went off on the front. He made a move at some stage, or I don't know if he just maintained the pace and they didn't follow him, but he was quite clearly far off the front after the 30K mark, and they had to chase him eventually.
Yeah, and you wonder how much that was chasing versus, like, he just kept the pace and they dropped off a little bit. So,
yeah.
I mean, part of me wonders, like, did he go too hard and then, like, blow up a little bit? It's like, actually, I'm done here.
I think so. The commentators were like, "We're going to see a new South African record here. I think he's going to keep going. This is unbelievable. Looks amazing." I was texting with my wife from the gym saying, "Don't listen to what the commentator is saying. He's blowing up here. He does not look comfortable." And literally 500 meters later, he pulled out.
I mean, if you accelerate, let's play devil's advocate here. If he accelerates from 30 Ks, and the thing to remember here is, if you've never done a marathon and you've run a lot of half marathons, this pace is actually not so bad for him.
Mm.
Right. So he's, so then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I'm actually, I can pick this up a bit. And then all of a sudden he got too close to the fire, got burned and was like, I'm done here. I'm out.
I don't think
So
it's long before he breaks the South African marathon record. The moment he decides to do a marathon, I think he will be the fastest South African marathon runner.
yeah, I mean, he has all of the capacity at the faster, there's lower distances. But the thing to remember, this run is more reassuring to me than his other running has been, because it's actually really hard to convert an elite half marathon to an elite marathon because of the time domain. We talk about this all the time. Because it's less than an hour, it's a very different race to a half marathon for you and I, where it's 80 minutes plus or 70 minutes plus. Like those time domains are really important, because under an hour is actually a lot easier from a fueling, hydration, all those things. So these elites, they often don't convert for that reason predominantly. So it's a very different race in that capacity.
We should make a note, put a pin in it. I went for lunch with my running, cycling friends last week, Friday, and we had this big debate because a lot of them have Comrades Marathon coming up about why we don't see Kenyans, Ethiopians dominating in the ultra distance. And the one friend said it's just because there's not a lot of incentive, there's not a lot of money behind it. If there was the same kind of money you see in marathons, they would transfer that to that distance. We should talk about that sometime if it is easily transferable.
I think that's part of the thing. And we talked about this a little bit with respect to the Golden Trail World Series and how it's sub-ultra and how the Africans are succeeding at that distance. But there's also, as things become longer, it becomes less physiologically bound, right? So we've talked about this a lot, which is psychology, problem solving, all these things become part of it. And so their physiological benefits of the tendons and all those things become less of an issue, less of an advantage. Or the advantage is diminished. And, that's also why we start seeing narrowing of gender gaps and those sort of things to some degree. So it becomes less physiological and more psychophysiological.
Interesting.
And then I had a question here, like, who do we think was more impressive? Kipchoge running 16th in 2:13, 12 minutes slower than his PB, or his wife, Grace Sugut, running PB, running 4:29, 59? So I don't know if I have an answer.
Clearly, Grace. She was out there for longer, almost more than twice the amount of time, and it would have been much harder for her.
Yeah.
And he's had a lot more preparation.
I mean, he was out there for a jog. He was on a Sunday long run. He wasn't even racing. It was, it was interesting. So, great for her to see. It's cool that he brought her out because she's been in the background. He used to just disappear and go to training camps and stuff. So it's cool that she's part of it all and she's getting to do this with him. If he's going to be on the Influencer World Tour to spread running, like, take your family, go for it.
Just one thing on him. One thing I noticed was we know him and we know his story because he's the GOAT, double Olympic champion and unbelievable. But I was watching him interact with people in Cape Town. He made everyone feel like he knew them and they were their best friend. I mean, we jokingly played a clip on months, I don't know, a long time ago, of a friend of mine being in Kenya with him. And I was like, oh, you're not really with him. And then they did a video together where Elliot was like, hey, Xylon, it's really me. And that I could see, he's so personable. Like, I don't know if they had a meet and greet at the stadium with certain people, but I was watching the video with him greeting everyone. And like I said, he would move from person to person and make every single person feel like they were friends. And I can see why he's so likable. I can see why races fly him out.
Yep, all that is very true. I think that's spot on. I mean, he's a lot less good when you start asking real questions, but he's very good at interact with people, as you say, making them feel happy and seen. And like, I've seen people in elite pens, like, go to give him a high five or a fist bump, and he always does it even before racing when he was trying to break world records. It's like the guy clearly gets that, like, this is part of his brand and it's important, and like it's important for the world. So I do believe there's a level of authenticity to a lot of what he does. For sure. Because you can be cynical and say, like, this is a PR spin here.
We're a couple of weeks away from the Football World Cup, football/soccer, now that the Premier League is over. Obviously, it's taking place in America, Canada, Mexico. So I'm really interested to see how this is going to go down, because so far, very mixed previews in terms of the news that's coming out of it. I'm seeing a lot less positive news for a World Cup, man. I'm sure once it starts, all of that will put aside and we'll have a proper football World Cup. But right now, a lot of the news seems to be negative coming out about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be the case. Like, easy to, yeah. Anyway, I don't want to get into why it's negative. Like, it is what it is. But
You still want to go to America? You don't want to say anything that'll jeopardize your visa chances.
no, I've got a visa that's valid, so it's all fine. But no, it's not about that. It's more just like, I think, like mixing sport and politics has always been the case, and it's always difficult, right? But like, doesn't matter how bad things are in a country. Generally, when there's a big sporting event on it, it gets great.
Yeah.
Right? Like South Africa wasn't doing super well when the World Cup went down there. And it went down there and everyone loved it, right? So like, it's easy to say like, oh, it's terrible because these things, like things will be different on the ground once this happens. Now, you may want to boycott for whatever reasons. Like, you get to do what you want, but to think that the World Cup's going to be terrible, like, I'm not sure about that. Now, if a team can't go, or someone like, support staff can't make it because of whatever reasons, like, yeah, that's terrible. But like, it's also, it's a country's prerogative who comes in, unfortunately or fortunately. Now, I think FIFA and countries should be working together to make sure that doesn't happen. But yeah, it's hard, man. Like, this stuff, you work with an African cycling team. Like, you told me a story about someone having to go back and get all sorts of passports and visas like redone the other day. Like, this stuff happens, man. It's really tough when you're from certain parts of the world. So, but one of the things I did want to talk about here, like, this is a soap opera and people's lives together, right? And there's so much happening here.
What do you mean?
Well, like, so soap operas are like where the drama is, right? But this is sports talk media, and to some degree, maybe this podcast. I don't think so. I think we're more performance based, but like, sports talk podcasts and stuff. That's reality TV mixed with soap opera. It's like using real world drama to talk about, right? And it just generates hype around it. It's also people's lives. So like, I was looking at like the discourse around the English team with all these people who were left out, like Harry Kane and the rest of them being left out. And it's like a big
Not
thing
Harry
here.
Kane, Harry Maguire.
Sorry.
Harry Kane's number one on the list.
Sorry, whatever. One of the Harrys.
Yeah.
It wasn't Prince Harry either. But so he was left off. None of the Real Madrid players. I saw an article written like there are 0 Real Madrid players, and it's a problem. And I was like, oh, geez, okay.
Yeah.
Didn't realize it was a thing. So, but it's always, I was thinking about this, reflecting on it, right? State of Origin's on, and we're going to talk about that briefly. Upcoming. It's on tomorrow night as we record this, or tomorrow morning, my time, as we record this. And it's always hard. Like, do you pick the best ex-players or do you pick the best team?
That's what Thomas Tuchel said, the England manager. He had a great quote. He said something to the effect of, I'm not choosing the most talented players. I'm choosing the best team. And you got to live with each other for 7 weeks, 6 to 7 weeks. It takes one person to disrupt that whole environment.
Yep, 100%. That's exactly what I was going to talk about, which is like, it's easy to pick the first, or easier to pick, say, the first 11, maybe the first 12.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to pick the next 5 to 8 guys because you got to be happy. This happens to the US basketball team all the time. It's like, who are we picking that's not going to play? That has to come and pretty much be okay with not playing, because that's super important in a sport like, particularly the NBA, where these guys are huge money, they're all superstars, huge egos. It's like, who's going to be okay coming and just like waving the towel, being a hype guy, right? And that's super important to make the right calls on that. And so, it's super hard choosing this team. And then there's another aspect in football and soccer, which is what formation are we playing and how do we want to play and how much flexibility do we want in that? Because you might
almost easy. That's almost easier than the man management you just spoke about now.
To some degree, but it changes who you pick.
Yeah.
And there might be somebody who is the best player in the world and plays a specific niche position, and we're not going to actually use that position, or we're going to play differently. So like, they're not getting picked. Now, it's an extreme example, but that's another wrinkle in football that doesn't exist in other sports to some degree. But ultimately here, I think, particularly in countries like England and Spain, like, you're either you're crazy or a genius. Like, there's no in between here. We talked about, is the English coaching job the worst in the world sport? And, a lot of people agree with that. But there's a really good chance here that either or both of these coaches are gone come, the day after the World Cup or within 6 months of the World Cup if they don't win it. Right? Like, and I don't know who's on a hot seat. I haven't consumed any of this media, but like, if there's enough noise before the tournament and you're a team that's expecting to win, and both these teams do, whether that's reasonable or not, like, you're a chance of getting fired.
What's interesting is Thomas Tuchel's contract has just been extended for England before the World Cup. Now that means nothing,
No.
obviously means nothing. But he still had a contract, so it's interesting that they've extended that. The Spanish coach is unbelievable. I can't think of his name now, but he's unbelievable at his job. Big call, not picking any Real Madrid players. There are no Liverpool players in the English team for the first time, I think, since the 80s or something. Um, what did you send me? You sent me a predictor. This guy has come up with a formula and he's correctly predicted, I think, who would win every single World Cup in the last 3 or 4 World Cups.
Yeah, I don't know. I just sent it to you because I made a call in December that said that it was going to be Portugal versus Netherlands and the Netherlands winning. And this guy's statistical predictor did the same. And I was like, oh, we're on here.
Okay,
Early
let's
victory.
remember that. Let's remember that. I would like Portugal to win for Cristiano Ronaldo's sake. Lionel Messi obviously winning the last one. So the two best players to ever play to get a World Cup and the feather of the cap. But we don't hand out participation trophies. It has to be earned. But Portugal does stand a very, very good chance. Should we move on to more athletic news? Parker Valby is returning to the track. Seems like a long time ago since we've talked about a performance from her.
Well, she's been injured since last year. So first race since February 2025. So she had a bunch of injuries, changed coaches a few times. I think she's now with Joe Bossard, which will be interesting to watch. That's Emma Bates' coach. High volume approach, not as much running. So interesting. That's sort of aligns with what Parker did in college. But she ran a 5,000 meter PB, so not a bad way to return. So she ran 14:49. So yeah, let's see. She's only raced 3 times as a pro. So New Balance are like probably just a little bit worried about some of their investment there. It's like, oh, she's not running as much as we thought she would, but that's a long-term investment. You invest in Parker for the long term. So yeah, let's see how she goes. But stoked to see her back. She's important for the sport. Let's not forget she made the 10,000 final as a college student in the Olympic Games. So let's keep an eye on her.
Let's talk about some tennis news. I actually read this article a few days ago. Rolland Garros started over the weekend. There's been some interesting times with regards to the interviews.
Yeah, well, so athletes and only the elites really, or the top tier, get interviewed pre-tournament really, and so they've been limiting those interviews to 15 minutes as a representation of the 15% of revenue on which is on average what the Grand Slams share to prize money or allocate to prize money. So they want players want a higher share of this. Basically, is what this is about, and this is particularly important because it's Rolland Garros at the moment, but Wimbledon's coming, and then the US Open is coming as well, and so they have negotiations with those organizations upcoming in the second week of Rolland Garros here. So there's people. Sabalenka said there's a chance that they don't do interviews at all, and then Iga Swiatek said, "No, that's not going to happen." So they're not exactly a united front there, but let's see what happens.
I saw what Sabalenka did was she was still thoughtful, so they were only giving 15 minutes worth of interviews to mimic the 15%, like you said, prize money they're getting or share of revenues that they're getting. But she did 10 minutes with the general media, and then she'd still save 5 minutes for her country in language, which was thoughtful of her. But yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, it's fine. Like, these are still professionals. They still understand that the media butters their bread to some degree, and you still need to be doing this. So I think this is a respectful way to do it. I think it's smart as a message to send, but also not, completely boycotting media, which I think is wrong for any athlete. I think once or twice, like particularly if you had a tough match, like, hey, I'm not going to do media now, I'll do it in the morning or something, like that's fine. But I think people who do complete media boycotts, like I don't think that's great. Like you have to do some of it. I do think Marshawn Lynch's did we talk about this on the podcast?
I don't remember. What was it?
So Marshawn Lynch is an ex-NFL player from Compton, so a pretty rough upbringing. Was a very big, sort of abrasive player, and in the Super Bowl week they have to do media, and he sat down for an interview, and or with the media around, and they started asking him questions, and every answer was, "I'm just here so I don't get fined." And they keep asking questions. He would just say the same thing over and over and over again. It was hilarious to watch.
How is now, have you watched Kevin Hart's roast on Netflix?
Correct.
He was in it, right?
No.
Oh, no. He wasn't in Kevin Hart's roast. Kevin Hart has this new show on Netflix where it's like an idol. It's like a pop idols for comedians. Funny AF. And he's in that. There's one episode where these comedians are trying to make it, obviously, and one episode takes on the format of a roast. And Marshall Lynch is the one they roast. It's so good. They got him, Nikki Glazer on the couch, and Kevin Hart. The one joke they made to Marshall Lynch was like, Marshall Lynch is the slave you buy, and then you get Kevin Hart extras like a bonus. Like
Oh,
it
wow.
was like brutal. It was
Yeah.
so funny, the whole thing.
Yeah, okay. I haven't watched any of that, so I should probably go watch it. I'm a little bit Kevin Harted out after the roast, to be honest, but we'll get there. But anyway, so players are asking for each Grand Slam to devote 16% of their revenue to prize money this year, after taking last year's revenue of £427 million. Adjusting for inflation, that demand would equate to just over 70 million at Wimbledon, or 34% rise on the 53.5 million prize money offered in 2025. Players are also asking each slam to make $4 million or 2.98 million pounds contribution to the benefit pool, and further action is a possibility when Wimbledon begins on the 20th of June.
What I liked about all of this was immediately I thought, oh, it's the elites. They want to earn more money. But part of their proposal is the money filters right down to develop the sport to the lower ranked athletes.
Well, I think it would have been better for the elites. You know, they're never going to do this, but to say we want more money, but we are going to take less. So we want more total, and we're going to take less, right?
Okay, so both, because the first part wouldn't work really.
Yeah. So what it is you go, we want it to be 16%, and we currently take, let's say they would take, just for number's sake, you know, we want 16%. It's now whatever 15%. We want 16%, and at the moment we win $1 million. We will take 800,000 as a show of faith, because we believe in the younger, like the earlier parts of the career need to be supported more. All right, so we're going to give away some, and we're asking the tournaments to give away some. So the winner's prize pool will be garnished a little bit. So that's
I don't think they would do that, because they obviously of the belief that there is money available going to other people who it should probably be going straight into the development of the sport, i.e. younger athletes.
100% agree, but they also need the money the least and have the most to give.
Private jets are very expensive, man.
Exactly. And it's disproportionately going to be impactful down low. But anyway, this made me think about other aspects of what we're seeing in sport, which is everyone's arguing about revenue and we want more money, but you know, it's all about TV rights deals and that. And it's just, you know, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and like, it's impossible for me to watch, say, Premier League. I'd need 5 channels, and in America, it's impossible to watch the NFL. You need 6 channels, and you know, so we get into this, like, we're splitting media rights up. We want more games. We want more money. Everyone wants more money. It's all up and to the right. And at some point, like, it just can't anymore. We've talked before about crowded schedule in the Premier League, for instance. You basically need to run 2 squads in the Premier League at the moment, right? So, like, at some point, you know, this talk about rugby and global calendars, like, at some point, that's it. We can't do more. We just can't.
Yeah. So there's no more time in the day. There are no more days in the week. There are no more weeks in the months. Like, that's not increasing.
Yeah. Or there's no more miles I can put on my body every year.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So, you know, and, you know, part of the challenge here is private equity flooding into ownerships, and then it all becomes a business sum of ROIs. So, yeah, I don't know. Something has to give here. I don't have anything more to say, but like, it just feels like we're getting to, like, something's got to give here soon.
We need to find that balance, like everything in life. We need to find the balance of private equity coming in, but people having an understanding of the physiology behind the athletes and what they are capable of and where the limits are, and finding that balance. Not to one side or the other, like business coming in and going, oh, if we increase this, if we increase the number of days, the number of tournaments, the number of matches, we can increase revenue by X and it can go back into the sport. No, because it doesn't increase the availability of elite athletes and how often they can play and how often the best can play. Like, so it's always finding that balance. Wow, we've got through a lot on this episode. Big talking points. We even covered comedy. Doctor's office. Anyone in the doctor's office?
Well, there's 2. So first, shout out and thoughts going out to Marco Altini. He got super sick last week before 100 kilometer del Pastore. He shapes his whole year around this training wise, so it's a real tough one to be sick for. So yeah. And he's a previous guest and obviously listens to the pod. So thoughts are with you, Marco. And I've sent him some private messages. And I mean, he's doing fine, but it's terrible when that happens, when you gear your year to this and then it doesn't happen. And he was in unbelievable shape too. I had no doubt he was going to run really fast there. So as the first one, the second one is Killian Korth, who got second at Cocodona to Rachel Entrekin. He tore his peroneus longus, which is a tendon that runs from basically the bony bit on the outside of your knee around the back of your ankle to underneath your big toe, and helps you like evert your ankle. So the opposite of when you sprain your ankle, which is probably how he did this, it does the opposite movement. And so he probably took a bit of an ankle sprain type of injury at some point, and then tore this, and now he's due for surgery. Apparently, I'm not sure. Like, I was doing some research into the surgery for this. It's pretty brutal. So I don't know how. It must be a pretty bad tear. I saw a photo on social. It looked terrible. So thoughts to Killian as well.
Do I have a seat on social this week? I love this feature, but I've missed it for a few episodes now. I love when we do have something. Do we have something this week?
Yeah, so shout out to Rob Dalto. For those who don't know Rob's a social media influencer, runner, does a ton for the community up in the Bronx, the Bronx Burners. I've met Rob. He's at NYC Running Stable, lovely dude. Works full time and runs a lot, and does all this stuff. He's run all the world marathon majors multiple times. Had some heart issues, but Rob was driving the 3:30 bus in Capetown, right? And he was talking about it. Did some social around it. It was great. And he does videos where he does each mile, and he had his pacing plan from the organization on a card to do, right? And he nailed it as prescribed and finished in exactly 3 hours, 28:30 for the 3:30 bus. I have so many notes and thoughts. That's not how we run 3:30. We run 3:30 by running 3:29:45 or something like this. Not
Is there a big difference?
3:28:30. There's a massive. If you are borderline going to run 3:30 and I try to make you run 3:28, you're running 3:32, 3:34. You're going to blow up. Like that's not how we do it. I remember at the Amsterdam Marathon, I was trying to run 3 hours. I said to the 3 hour paces, "Are you running gun time or chip time?" And he said, "Even." And I was like, "I don't know what you mean."
That's a non-answer.
Bye. So anyway, but because what I wanted to do, because what you really need is people who run the exact pace for 3 hours or whatever. And look, if there's a hill and there's some whatever, like, okay, we're going to tweak it a little bit. But let's say all things the same, like Amsterdam, it's a flat marathon. We're going, a 3 hour marathon, we're going to split the half in 1:29:50 something. And then we're going to come through at, 2 hours 59 something. Like that's how we're doing it, there or thereabouts. So that I can look at you, if you're chasing me down and know I'm in trouble, and conversely, I can start with you and then run off the front if I'm feeling good. Like that's what we ultimately need, right? So anyway, it is what it is. Like, this is not Rob's fault, and like I consider Rob to be a friend to some degree, like a lovely dude. This isn't him. Like I think he did a perfect job. The problem is the organization wanted to run 3:28.
Yeah, maybe they had two buses. Sometimes they're like at Comrades, each group has two buses, but I don't think at Capetown Marathon that's the case.
But why are they both 3:30 buses then? Like they're not two 3:30 buses. One's a 3:28 bus.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like if 3:30 is 3:30. This is really simple here. Like run just under 3:30.
Yeah.
And like 90 seconds is not just under. That's a long way.
Yeah. It's a big average paced thing. What are we watching this weekend?
Well, Giro finals on, I think. Jonas has got that locked up already, but let's see. And then Diamond League's on, mate. And then I've got State of Origin tomorrow. What else are you watching?
Giro as well, even though I can't see it being interesting. I think Jonas Vingegaard will win by like 10 minutes. Champions League final on Saturday, and thankfully they've made it earlier. It's like such a decent time, 6 p.m. my time, 5 p.m. UK time.
That's so early.
PSG, yeah, it's so much better. I can't handle these 11 p.m. midnight finishes anymore in my time zone. PSG versus Arsenal. If Arsenal win this as well after winning the Premier League, they are going to be even more insufferable. I don't know. I don't know if it's safe for you in London to go outside without seeing a red jersey. Oh,
it's super safe, mate. I'm in the west of London. Arsenal's in the east. It's fine. There's no one around.
North. Arsenal's in the north. North London is red, apparently.
Okay, northeast or something? I don't know. Anyway, whatever.
No, the song literally says North London. Like,
there you go. I should know, and I don't.
Too many teams for you to follow in London. Yeah, that's what we'll be watching this weekend. Let's get out of here. If you're still listening to this part of the podcast and you haven't subscribed yet, we will ask you to do so now. If you don't mind, we drop a new episode every single Friday, and for the next couple of Tuesdays, still bonus episodes with Ato, Verbe, and David. Thank you, David. Thanks for putting this together. I really appreciate you doing all of the prep and the hard work and your shoulders and, carrying it and all of that. And that's why you have to go lift heavy stuff in the gym. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, mate. You have a good day. Talk soon.
Catch you on the next one.